For he said, this is my will, be done. Let my Father, I must be about my Father's business. That was the choice he made. Choices. So as he went up to this Mount of Transfiguration, we see that he took 3 people with him. That was Peter, James, and John, also known as the sons of thunder. He took them up to the mountain of Transfiguration to come with them because everybody couldn't go. Because if you do your math, there's 12 disciples, but yet he only took 3, so where the rest of them at? So now that's where you see in the text where the rest of the disciples are. So they see this awesome thing happening and the transfiguration going past. And it's funny because even with Peter 6 days prior made the best words that he could ever say. He told Jesus said, who do men say that I am? And they went around the bush. They said, hey, you're this, you're John the Baptist, you're this, you're that. But then he asked the question, he said, what do you say that I am? And then that's when all of them kind of looked around and they said, and then Peter came by and said, you're the Christ, the Son of God. Yes, sir. And Jesus responded back, flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father which is in heaven. So now you're no longer Simon Bar-Jonah, but now you're called Peter. And upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. That's how we get into the text, choices. So we see the choice that has been made by Peter to be able to say that which God had given him to say. And in resemblance of that, in the possibility of him saying what he had to say, Jesus responds back and tells him who he is. As you reveal who Christ is to you, he'll reveal who you are in actuality. Because Peter didn't know he was Peter. He didn't know what he was. He thought he was just a boy named Simon. So now we have this rock, and we see this all happening, and the transfiguration happening, and Moses and Elijah show up, and this awesome thing comes, and it talks about the clothing and the face of Jesus turning as white as snow. That Clorox bleach couldn't even get it that white. And you see how white it turns, and Peter says the wrong thing at the right time. He says, Jesus, this is good that we've seen this, but we want to start building churches. Let's build a church for Elijah. Let's build a church for Moses. Let's build a church for yourself. And that's when God moves in and he puts a cloud over Peter and says, this is my son. Listen to him. I have commended him. I have commissioned him. And then all of a sudden the cloud went away and Jesus was the only one that was there. So we had a choice that had to be made. You see how Peter made the wrong choice at the right time. Just like many of us, we make the right choice at the wrong time. Or we might make the right choice at the right time but not get the outcome that we expect. So we see right here, this is where the church is. The church is gathering on the bottom of this mountain. And if you give me a little time, I'll be able to explain this to you and I'll be out your way. But as we see, as he's coming down out the Mount of Transfiguration, he sees these things and he tells them, hey, to the 3, don't tell nobody what you've seen. Don't tell nobody until I'm done and I've risen again. And then they're walking down and the 3 are talking like, we've seen Elijah, we've seen Moses, but what is this talking about rising up again and all that stuff? What is he talking about? And so they're coming down the mountain. And as they're coming down the mountain, and this is where we get into the text, we see the disciples, the 9 that have been left behind on the bottom of the mountain, thinking that it's all good, that, we're just going to chill out here, waiting until Jesus come down from doing this thing, we kind of upset anyway because we weren't part of the ones who got to go up on the mountain. Peter, James, and John, they think, they the stuff, we don't, forget them, let's go and do what we need to do. But what happens when you got your guard down and somebody comes up that needs your help? For we see that this is what's going on with the text because the crowd is gathering and we see this man had come into the church, the ecclesia, the called out ones. For many times Webster has messed up our minds because it said in the dictionary that the church is a building. When in fact Christ didn't die for a building, Christ died for us. So we are the church. We are the church. And sometimes that bothers me when we say we're going to have some church because a lot of times we think church is an experience when it should be a lifestyle. So what happens when church don't work? And this is where we find the text. We see them down there lollygagging around the 9, and and theologians believe it's been the 9 because they only talked about the 3 that went up in the mountain, and they believe that the 12 went with them everywhere he went. So the 9 is there. It could be 9 or below, but that's what the theologians say. So at least we know it's 9, and we know it's not 0. So we know between there. Okay, I don't want y'all to get mad at me. All right, but we see that happening. And we see this man in this desperate situation. For this man is coming down, and as Jesus is coming down, he sees this crowd gathering. And I love it about Jesus because so many times we think about Jesus as this meek person. He talks about turning the other cheek. He talks about doing so many things, turning